Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, giving infinite praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Wachakwadash, giving double honors to our apostles and elders of great millstone, and shalom and salutation to all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart. I'm your fellow servant, Kasama God from a DC camp, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Wachakwadash, to feed the elect. Now, this is going to be another installment of the Watchtower, all right? And we dealing with one of the pillars of America, right? America being the virgin daughter of Babylon, spoken of in the book of Revelation, that will ultimately be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles, according to the scriptures, at the climax of the Third World War, all right? And this lesson, of course, is for the elect of the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, the 1/3 selected, elected to be delivered prior to the destruction of Babylon the Great. All right, now we dealing with one of the pillars of Babylon, which is owning, a vehicle of transportation. As you know, part of the American dream is the opportunity, so-called. That's what was sold to not only the citizens of America, but across the world, right? That this is a place of milk and honey, a place where you have an opportunity to, get a house. The primary thing was get a house or get a job, get a house, get a car, right? The whole wife picket fence and children and a dog, right? And as we go on further and further down on the drain, as an economy is being made bad and undeniable, right, that this economy is collapsing. One of the major signs, it started off with home ownership collapsing way back in 2008, and the collapse continues. And as we know, the secondary collapse is the one that's on the way, which is the collapse of the automobile industry. All right, now, as you see in this image right here, man, you have, of course, a Jake, an ignorant Negro, right, standing on one of the most popular vehicles, as of late, as far as like past 10 years, HELLCATS. I mean, seems like everybody and their mothers have a Hellcat these days. And is really not only this type of car, you have different type of cars as well, very, very expensive. I'm just using this because, in our area in particular, I mean, it seems like everybody, has one. But these cars are very expensive. A lot of these vehicles are super cars, very expensive. And when you have these cars being put out in these lots and you have people buying these cars and they cannot afford. So what's happening is that the condos, which we're going to look at the numbers, you have a lot, especially our people, right? Because again, when I say we, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we are the most delusional people on the planet Earth. We're the most idiotic and dumb people on the planet Earth, especially the ones, the ones of us that are not awakened. So we fully bought and sold into this society. And now the chicken are coming to roost, and there's high levels of repossession happening. All right, and this is becoming an obvious problem. All right, so this is an article from this is motor1.com. This was dated April 25th, 2023. It says delinquent car loans, repossessions, and are rising in America. Report. It says business is booming for the repo man as more people fall behind on their auto loans. And I can attest to this because I met an individual at a place where I work at, networking and whatnot. And, he owned a repo and he was looking for mad people to work at repo. Now, of course, it's a very dangerous job. And, a lot of these people, a lot of the American citizens, man, they really have their hearts in their, in the things that in their possessions. All right. Americans are the most carnal individual in the history of the world. So it's like, being in that job of repo and all that, your life is literally in the line every time so I kind of passed on that, man. I mean, it's just not because people getting desperate out here, man. I've seen some things happen to these repo guys, man. They get the bleaky poured on them a lot. So yeah, man. I mean, people desperate out here, man. It says there's a storm brewing in the auto loan industry. In March, the percentage of delinquent subprime auto loans increased to 5.3%, up from 2.6% 2 years ago. Wow. I mean, that's damn near double in 2 years. It says this spells bad news for consumers, many of whom are struggling to make their loan payments. However, it means business is booming for one area of the economy. The towing and recovery industry is gearing up for what could be banner a banner year in business. At the recent North American Repossessor Summit conference in Orlando, Florida, the talk is about finding enough workers to meet the rise in demand. Right. And I can attest to that. I just passed on that opportunity because I just didn't think that it's not something you really want to engage in right now. Because like I said, these people are desperate. A lot of people can sense their whole world is crumbling, and they definitely gonna look for scapegoats to trying to lay down their fury, and all that. So you're gonna have a lot of deaths, a lot of homicide, a lot of murder, a lot of savagery go down, man. As this economy continues to collapse, um, and people realize that their God, who they worshiped the whole time, was materialism. It says, as the economy curves down, our industry curves up, said Ben Deese, vice president at North Carolina-based Home Detective Co. The $1.7 billion industry primarily recovers assets like cars, trucks, and boats, all requiring skilled tow truck drivers. When someone falls behind on a loan, a recovery agent is dispatched with a tow truck to repossess the vehicle for the lending company. The vehicle was then impounded and auctioned off by a financial institution or towing company. In most cases, a person has to be at least 60 to 90 days behind on their loan payments. But some companies that deal with subprime borrowers will repossess a vehicle if even a single payment is missed. Right, because you got, and mind you, a lot of these Jakes out here, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, their credit all effed up, man. So the card notes is outrageous. And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you in real time, what you're looking at and what these people, because the economy is showing that the already most impoverished group of people, which are, the so-called Negroes and then so-called Hispanics and natives, um, they are really losing big time as far as jobs as this economy crumbles. But we are the people that seem to still try to keep up with the upper echelon of this society that still ride around with Lambos and all that. So you got Jake trying to ride around and stunt, and they cannot afford these vehicles, man. And that's why these things are being repossessed, which is a great sign that the front is almost coming. It's almost coming to an end. Um, basically party over. You know what I'm saying? The lights are coming on. Everybody realize the party over. It says, according to Cox Automotive, approximately 1.5 to 1.8 million vehicles are repossessed annually. The number dropped from 1.68 mil in 2019 to about 1.1 mil of vehicles in 2021 during the pandemic's peak, before rising again last year. Despite the increase in delinquencies, lenders are still eager to make loans, which are then repackaged into bonds and sold to investment firm, hedge funds, and other investors. Right. And that's how man, because even though, as a matter of fact, yeah, even though dudes can't keep up with their cars, they can't keep up with their car notes, and these cars get repossessed. You notice that the dealerships, the prices on these overpriced vehicles keep rising up, right? And they don't mind being, because the car's being repossessed, because then it goes to an investment firm, and that debt goes into your credit, and somebody buys that debt, it gets sold. All right, but ultimately you're taking an L. It's you're taking an L because clearly it's a stat. It shows that your whole universe, your whole world is crumbling in America, right? And then also the only people winning are the corporations. All right, which that's basically what's going on right now. All right, so only the corporations are winning, and the average American citizen is losing, which that's is gonna turn. That's gonna lead to a collapse of the middle class and the lower middle class, which is gonna lead to violence and an outrage of violence and riots basically. So you look at these prices, like, for these cars. I mean, some of them are just regular SRTs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You got scats packs and all scat packs and all that. You know, these prices are absolutely outrageous. You know what I'm saying? I mean, now when you look at a lot of videos they're talking about it. I was looking at it, right? You look at these titles. It says so many stolen Hellcats, Mopar repo challenges. That's another thing too. Dudes are stealing cars. So theft is car theft has risen up. Repo white supremacist Hellcat, whatever that means. It says, look at that title. The truth, my Hellcat got repossessed. Repo gone wrong. Hellcat, Scat Pack, all repossessed. Repo crisis incoming. Scat Packs and Hellcats in danger. Right? Dodge, Hellcat, Scat Pack, repossessed. Banks want their whatever. So the banks say, yeah, man, listen, you can't afford your payment. Now, look at this statistic, man. This is the average car note in 2023, bro. It says the average car payment for new vehicles was a record high $725 in the first quarter of 2023, bro. Listen, man, and you see that little young Negro right here. I mean, chances are, how he's able to afford this, you already know, man. He most likely he's not affording this by doing a 9 to 5. I'll tell you that. You look at how Jake is the get up and everything, and that's that car. So he doing things most likely that he ain't got no business doing until he get caught, right? And he does a little stint in the joint. He does a little dime, a 20 in the joint. Risking his whole life just to do. But see, the Lord is shutting this shit down. You know, because they can't keep up with the lifestyle. They can't keep up with this lifestyle, man, because America's going down the drain. It says the average car payment for new vehicles was a record high of $725 in the first quarter of 2023, an 11.5 increase from the first quarter of 2022. So $725 on average for the average American person in this poverty-stricken nation. It's really, I mean, it's crazy, bro. And I know, listen, I personally seen Negroes in certain places where I worked at. I'm talking about Southeast, some of the most impoverished places in the hood. And some of the cars that were parked outside on the sidewalk, on the curb, and seeing the individuals get out of the car and seeing the apartment, aka trash can, in which they went in, where they lay their heads. It was a sight to see. It was a sight to see somebody come out of a vehicle that looks like that, and to see where they lay their heads. It was really, that's how you know that, the so-called black man primarily is completely lost. He's out of his effing mind and does everything backwards. And that's the same thing with the so-called Latinos. They do the same thing. They spend money on dumb shit. But see, listen, it's all a delusion. It's because you trying to keep up with the Joneses. Who are the Joneses? Ultimately, you trying to live a lifestyle of the Edomites, because the Edomites sold this lifestyle to our people. You know what I'm saying? And our people bought into it, hook, line, and sinker, not understanding that this was all a trap. And the carnal man is going to fall for these things. The natural man is going to fall for these things. He has no choice. But the spiritual man is able to elevate through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shema Shai, and understand that these things are nothing but the care of the world. These things are temporary. These things were nothing but temptations that were put in front of us to see if we would choose Babylon over Yahweh Bashim El Shai. But the elect are truly understanding, their eyes are wide open, like, hey man, this is bullshit. But the 2/3 are gone. All right. This is Ezekiel 24:6. It says, wherefore, thus saith the Lord power, woe to the bloody city, to the pot whose scum is therein, and whose scum is not going out of it. Bring it out piece by piece. Let no lot fall upon it. Yeah. So the American dream is being brought out. It's being taken down piece by piece. And you may not think it's a big deal, but the car repossession situation is huge because in the United States in 2023, man, I mean, public transportation is not reliable for you to get to where you need to get to, or whether it be work and different things. You need a ride, and you may not necessarily need a supercar, but even these regular cars. I mean, the Nissan. I mean, you got some jakes out here, man. They driving effed up cars and need car notes. Like I looked at the stats for black women in particular. Like regular cars, because they credit all effed up. They're paying $800 car note on effed up. I mean, come on, bro. Like, you cannot sustain this. This is unsustainable. All right. It's all a dream, man. It was never really real. All right. And party over, man. This is Ecclesiasticus 34:1. It says, the hopes of a man void of understanding are vain and false, and dreams lift up fools. All right. This is nothing to dream. We don't see the thing about it is Israelite, the elect, man. We don't live in the dream. We live in reality. The reality is that, man, we were brought here to be slaves. All right. Up until a certain moment. And then when that moment came, we would awake, right? And we would be spiritual, and we would go back to our power as far as spiritually and mentally, and sit back and watch Babylon fall piece by piece and fall into decay, into despair, and ultimate destruction. Verse 2, whoso regardeth dreams is like him that catcheth at a shadow and followeth after the wind. Right, you chasing the American dream, and these people are the most happy and the most unhappiest people, on the planet. Everybody around, well, not everybody now, but for a long period of time, the whole world was like, man, living in America must be. Well, if you actually move up here, you will see there's a dark shadow, there's a dark cloud, over America, over Babylon. It's just, the people don't want to accept the fact that the party is over, but they don't have a choice, because the elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefeller, man, they're making moves, and Agenda 2030 is working. They're openly telling people, hey, man, you will own nothing. You know what I'm saying? And you would, what would it say? You would own nothing, and you would be happy. And Klaus Schwab talking about you're going to go from driving Hellcats to eating bugs. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, man, this is real. All right. So now let me go to Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 10. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. All right. So you're going to have a market crash. Really, the market is crashing. I mean, you can't just wait for one day to wake up one day and they say, well, hey, the car on the market for vehicles are crashing. No, a crash happens in periods of months. People's cars are being repoed. They cannot afford their payments. This is called a crash. Things don't just really, like, a lot of times, Jake will make the mistake to wait for that one day when everything is going to crash. It doesn't usually work like that. That's why the Lord speaks about patience. The crash is happening. It's been happening. All right. You seen the numbers. All right. And then you're going to see how people are acting. The reason why people are acting so unreasonably now to this extent is because they're losing their shit. They're losing their material. They're losing what they put all their faith and hope in, which is materialism. All right. So now they got to take it out on somebody else. Somebody else got to pay. Somebody else got to be held accountable for their American dream collapsing in front of their eyes. 1 Corinthians 7:29, it says, but this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they have none, which we know that. It says, and they that weep as though they weep not, and they that rejoice as though they rejoice not. and they that buy as though they possess not. So yeah, because of course you may have brothers that have Hellcats and nice whips. So I mean, but at the end of the day, if you bought it, it's as if it ain't yours, because it says as though they're possessed not, because it's gonna repossess. It's gonna be repossessed. A lot of these loans, man, you sign these things for like what, 56, 75 months. You're gonna be paying a car for like 7 years, man. You don't really, you ain't gonna be paying that car for 7 years, man. You ain't gonna drive that thing for 7 years. Eventually, you're either gonna trade it in or it's gonna be repossessed. You lose your job. So our mind is like, man, we don't give a F. You know what I'm saying? We ready to let all this shit go, man. We've already let this shit go, to be honest. 1 Corinthians 7:31, it says, and they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away. Right. So, man, all this is gonna get nuked, man. All these things that you see, man, don't marvel, man. Listen, all this so-called, it's Esau's world is coming to an end, man. Ain't nobody impressed by Esau's technology. Only the 2/3 love this world and love and what Esau has to offer. But the elect, man, we rejected this world, man. We reject all the shit that Esau got to offer, man. And we just gonna sit back and watch this thing burn. All right, that's all I had for today. Hopefully you were edified with this lesson on this installment of the Watchtower. Just keep being watchful, man. Y'all about Shah, Bashim Dash. All right, so call out Yahweh Bashim Shah, double honors, our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.